It's been 70 years since World War II ended. The war marked a turning point for San Diego's defense industry and military presence. On this Memorial Day, University of San Diego history professor Iris Engstrand joins me to look back at how World War II shaped San Diego's economy and population. Professor Engstrand, how would you describe San Diego before World War II?
Before World War II, it was really a small town, and people called it the Sleepy Pueblo or the, Sleepy San Diego. And when the defense industry Convair came, it started pepping up a little bit. And then when the Pearl Harbor was bombed and San Diego suddenly was right in the midst of it, defense industries, we already had naval bases and the Marine Corps recruit depot, but they quadrupled their draft lists, and so many families moved into San Diego.
Well, let's talk about Pearl Harbor. When Japan attacked the U.S. in late 1941, what went through San Diegans' minds? Were they worried that they were next?
Of course, they thought that the Japanese were going to continue from Hawaii, and the fact that they didn't was always more or less a surprise to the military as well as the civilians. And so as a child, we were panicked. We had no idea what they were talking about to begin with, but our parents said, there's a submarine going to be attacking on the shore. So as kids, we walk up and down the beach with binoculars looking for submarines. And they gave us little books and said, watch for Japanese planes. And so for the first few weeks after the bombs dropped on Pearl Harbor, as children, we were really frightened.
So how prominently did this war play in the minds of kids?
It was everywhere. It was not like even the more recent wars or conflicts. Everybody talked about it. And afterwards, your family, your brothers, your uncles, your friends, your neighbors, people were all joining the armed services. And boys that were too young were sad. Men that were too old were sad that they couldn't join the service. It was a more patriotic, all of us were going to be helping in the war effort.
And after the war started, what role did San Diego overall play in that war effort?
We opened more military bases. We expanded the bases that we had. More people came for the defense industry. Women went to work. Everybody had some kind of a job to fulfill. Even as a child, we collected newspapers, we collected scrap metals. We did everything for this word that we really weren't sure of, the war effort, what that meant, but we knew it was important. And so San Diego's population quadrupled. Every house that was possible to be rented out or divided up, Linda Vista housing was built. And so it was just thousands of people coming. And then the aftermath, after the war was over, these families said, San Diego's climate and weather's great. Maybe we'll just come back and live in San Diego.
How was Balboa Park used in the war efforts?
Well, Balboa Park was totally occupied by the military, and it had started during World War I. And so we had a history of Balboa Park being used. And so the Natural History Museum turned into headquarters in the Navy. The House of Hospitality was for nurses. And there was quite a fence all around Balboa Park. And so all those facilities for 4 or 5 years were closed to the public.
And what was daily life like for San Diegans? Were there air drills? Did you have an overall sense that something big was happening on a daily basis?
We had air raids and blackouts and camouflage. It was a scary kind of a thing because you didn't exactly know what was happening. And when you had an air raid, you had to turn out all the lights, and you had air raid drills in school. So as children, you didn't really know where the enemy was, although we probably were more up on it, even the kids today with internet. We had movie tone news where you had the reports of the islands in the Pacific, but being on the coast, we were never really feeling safe.
Now, you were, as you said, a young child when this war started. What are some memories that stand out for you?
Well, in school, we had the posters where we had Hitler, Mussolini, and Tojo. And so we bought defense stamps in order to have little squares. Every time you bought a defense stamp, you could put a size of a stamp on the poster. And we had the slogan of help black out Tojo, help black out Hitler, help black out Mussolini. We had teams in our schools, who could buy the most defense stamps. We didn't really do anything very frivolous because of gas rationing, because of the war effort. That's all we seem to know about for, all the time that the duration of the war lasted.
And so when you look back, if you were to sort of sum up that war's impact on San Diego, how would you describe it?
It changed really everything. It was no longer a content seaside town, and with all of the newcomers that came, everything increased. The economy, we did have, the Atlas missiles later, and so San Diego has been a military town since World War I, and even during the mid-years. But after World War II, still people think of San Diego as a Navy town.
Iris Engstrad, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Well, thank you for having me.